Swadika, good morning. Welcome to Newsline. We're coming live to you on NBT, NBT World, and also Radio Thailand FM 88. I'm Cholapansa Narula. It's Wednesday today, March 16th of 2016, and here are today's top stories. Beginning with Thailand moves forward. In our first story, Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister General Prawit Wongsuwan welcomed Qatar's ambassador to Thailand, His Excellency Jabor Ali A.H. Al-Dozari, at the Office of Permanent Secretary for Defence before discussing bilateral ties. Both parties have agreed to raise the level of their cooperation in trade, investment, tourism, security and labour. Mr. Al-Dozari also invited General Prawit to pay an official visit to the state of Qatar. Thailand and Qatar have enjoyed diplomatic relations for over 36 years. The defence minister proposed during their meeting that a committee be established to promote bilateral cooperation, especially in the area of national security. General Prawit revealed that Qatar is also interested in investment opportunities in the special economic zones. Deputy Prime Minister Somkit Jatusipitak delivered a speech on sustainable agriculture at Impact Muang Thong Thani, hoping to promote connectivity in Thailand's agricultural industry. Dr. Somkit was invited to speak at a forum on strengthening Thailand's economic foundation through agricultural connectivity. During his speech, Deputy Prime Minister claimed that greater cooperation between the public and private sectors would unlock more effective usage of the country's abundant natural resources for the farming sector. Dr. Somkit said that under the civil state policy, agricultural reform is now underway to transform the industry, and every organization involved will become more connected. Dr. Somkit added that Thailand needs to create value added for agricultural goods to boost export growth. The Deputy Prime Minister also encouraged Thai farmers to diversify their crops instead of depending on a single crop for their income. To promote the government's One Tambon, One SME scheme, the National Farmers Council will be responsible for providing farmers with greater access to capital. The Deputy Prime Minister also commented on the state of the global economic recovery, which he said is likely to remain sluggish. He pointed to a lack of stimulus in countries like China and Japan, as well as European nations. China will rely on its technological advancements to boost its economy, which is forecast to grow 6.5% this year. The Ministry of Energy has prepared for reduced energy production in April when the Zawtika gas field that supplies Thailand temporarily suspends operations. Energy Minister General Anantaporn Kanchanarat explained that Thailand imports a large amount of gas and therefore risks an energy shortage if any of its foreign suppliers cease operations. The Energy Minister has cited the need for a contingency plan. The Zawtika gas field in Myanmar will close for annual maintenance from March 18 till the 29th, during which time Thailand will be short of around 640 million cubic feet of natural gas per day. General Anantaporn has instructed operators of natural gas fields in Thailand to maintain production during this period. Reserves of various types of fuel have been increased in case of emergency demand. Suthon Bunprasong, Deputy Governor of the Electricity Generating Authority of Thailand's transmission system, said energy consumption in Thailand will likely peak at 28,000 megawatts in April, or around 1,000 megawatts higher than last year. He is confident there will be enough electricity for domestic consumption. The Social Development and Human Security Minister has taken part in the opening ceremony for the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women in New York City of the United States. Social Development and Human Security Minister Police General Adun Sangsingkao has led a delegation of Thai officials to the opening of the 60th UN Commission on the Status of Women taking place at the UN headquarters in New York City. The UN is seeking to devote greater attention to women's issues. The Commission's first 3 days will consist of ministerial-level talks. After attending the opening, Police General Adun gave an address on behalf of Thailand, which is the current chair of the Group of 77, affirming the need for action to create equality between men and women and to end violence against women. The Cabinet has given its approval to the Public Finance Bill and a new tax policy. Finance Minister Apisak Tantiwarawong said on Tuesday that the weekly Cabinet meeting has approved the proposal, which involves tax incentives for state enterprises. Under the approved conditions, each social enterprise must spend at least 70% of its revenue on social or charitable causes in order to be eligible for the tax waiver. The Finance Minister elaborated that any company that helps set up social enterprises can also enjoy tax incentives for related expenses. He added that the Cabinet has approved the amendment of the Thai Credit Guarantee Corporation Act to turn it into a financial institution in order to allow more flexibility in its operations. Moreover, the Cabinet resolved to approve the Public Finance Bill, which will regulate the financial and fiscal disciplines and pave the way for more related organic laws.
The Cabinet today approved the draft Royal Decree on tax exemption for social enterprises on its net profits. This also comes with a range of tax exemption measures for company or juristic partnerships that support social business and enterprises. The detail of this tax exemption can be found at the Ministry of Finance. These exemptions are designed to encourage the social business movement in Thailand business community through a more conducive environment. Lastly, the Cabinet today has approved toll exemption for motorway number 7 and motorway number 9 during the upcoming Songkran festival, starting from April 9 to April 17 of this year. This is to facilitate the flow of traffic and decrease energy consumption in the country. Motorway number 7 covers the route from Bangkok to Ban Chang, passing through Pattaya, Bang Vua, Chonburi, and Lam Chabang, whereas number 9 covers Bangkok Outer Ring Road Kanchanapisek from Bang Prain to Bang Pli. That was the Cabinet press briefing for the week of March 15, 2016.
Moving on to our next story, the chairman of the Constitution Drafting Commission, or CDC, has denied rumors that he is planning to resign from the post. Meanwhile, the National Council for Peace and Order is expediting help for troubled citizens. CDC Chairman Michai Ruchupan said that he has not been planning to leave his post because of the reported pressure from the submission of proposals related to the draft charter by the Four Rivers, which include the National Council for Peace and Order, the National Reform Steering Assembly, the National Legislative Assembly, and the Cabinet. Mr. Michai also said that he is not giving up, as he has taken up the job with the intention to do his best for the country. He also insisted that the 21-member charter drafting team is still functioning as an independent body and planning to complete all works by its deadline. The CDC chairman went on to say that the charter drafters will look at the proposals of the Four Rivers after the government completes the presentation of their recommendations. As for the NCPO, the National Council for Peace and Order is urgently providing assistance to those troubled by drought, smoke, haze, and unfair market prices. NCPO Deputy Spokesperson Colonel Sirijan Ngathong disclosed that Deputy Secretary General of the NCPO, General Chalermchai Sithisat, has instructed all related units to extend aid to drought-affected residents across the country. Officials from the Peace and Order Maintaining Command, Damrong Tham Centres, and provincial commerce offices are being dispatched to inspect product prices in local markets in order to prevent overpricing while supplies are low. The authorities will support the development of civil state markets, which will serve as another channel for OTOP products and farm goods. Colonel Sirijan has ordered close surveillance against wildfires and smoke and haze. Local authorities have been told to take appropriate actions to eliminate the problem in their jurisdiction. The Bangkok Metropolitan Administration has decided to restrict Songkran festivities by one day due to the national water shortage. Bangkok Deputy Governor Amonkit Chawengkun disclosed after a meeting of the BMA Songkran Committee that this year's celebration will be held under the theme Traditional Songkran, valuing conservation to encourage citizens to use water more sparingly. The committee has decided to shorten festivities in the city by a day to only 3 days from April 12 till the 14th, as well as to restrict water play in each area to until 9 p.m. Central World Department Store has agreed to cooperate with the BMA in its water conservation effort and has cancelled its water tunnel and the 24-hour water station services. Festivities will also be downplayed on Silom Road. The BMA has also resolved to continue monitoring for 5 issues that arise every year, which include alcohol consumption, nudity, weapons, the use of talcum powder, and excessive water waste. The city will work with the military and police to ensure the holiday is kept within bounds. The Department of Disaster Prevention and Mitigation, or DDPM, has signed an agreement with the Office of Insurance Commission (OIC) on accident insurance and a road safety campaign to support swift compensation for those affected by road accidents. DDPM Director General Chatchai Promlert and OIC Commissioner Suthipon Thawichaikan signed the agreement to foster mutual understanding on laws pertaining to the protection and compensation of accident victims and coverage by various insurance providers. The agreement was drafted in order for agencies to provide swift assistance and compensation to those affected, as well as to encourage safe driving. The move is part of the government's national agenda on road safety. During the upcoming Songkran festivities, the OIC will unveil an insurance program at a premium of only 100 baht that will provide up to 100,000 baht in compensation for the loss of life, with a coverage period of 1 year. A special commission studying ways to better manage garbage and waste has recommended that the problem be dealt with at the source by encouraging the public to better sort their trash. Director General of the Pollution Control Department and spokesperson for the Special Commission, Wichan Simachaya, stated at a recent seminar on garbage management that the government's roadmap has enabled authorities to rid the nation of 66% of its more than 30 million tons of stockpiled waste. He expects all of the stockpiled waste to be eradicated within this year. The spokesman indicated that the next step in dealing with garbage will be to issue laws that deal with waste on a community level. 30 such laws have already been drafted and are being reviewed. He stated that the most important approach to reducing waste is for households to sort their garbage, as well as to reduce and reuse. The Special Commission will soon finalize all of its recommendations, which extend beyond establishing waste-fueled power plants to having the public play a bigger role in dealing with the problem. And that's it for Thailand Moves Forward. Up next in ASEAN News, the Philippines is hosting the 14th Senior Officials Meeting to develop regional cooperation on media and public relations. But first, here's a look at the exchange rates and commodity prices.
ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community. Due to recurring natural disasters in the ASEAN region, the ASEAN Committee on Disaster Management has become the main authority to coordinate emergency help during disasters. Moreover, there is background of cooperation in terms of environmental sustainability and restoration of natural forest land to reduce the impact of disasters. One vision, one identity, one community.
Pad Thai, created from Thai wisdom, used to be served on banana leaf, and the banana tree is used for practicing Muay Thai. Muay Thai was trained in the temples, which can be found on the mountains, in the caves, or on the water, everywhere, just like Pad Thai. there are thousands of other stories to discover. Discover your amazing stories in Amazing Thailand.
You watching Newsline. Up to 100 delegates from ASEAN countries are attending the 13th ASEAN Ministers Responsible for Information, or AMRI, at the 14th Senior Officials Meeting, a SAMRI conference in Cebu, Philippines, aiming to develop regional cooperation on media and public relations. The 14th SAMRI meeting has begun at Cebu with discussions of intra-ASEAN governmental cooperation on topics such as information and the development of regional media and public relations. The goal of the meeting, which will run from March 14th till the 18th, will be to determine the steps to modernize the member states' mass media. Senior PR officials from ASEAN countries attended the SAMRI meeting, along with a delegation from the ASEAN Secretariat. Following SAMRI will be the AMRI meeting, which is scheduled for March 17th. Prior to the meeting, the Deputy Director General of Myanmar Radio and Television, U Win-ji, has made a briefing on the previous meeting's outcomes. The meeting signed and endorsed the Declaration on Socially Responsible Media for a Peaceful and Prosperous Community. The Philippines Presidential Communications Operations Office's Undersecretary, Jess Anthony Q, has stated that the Philippines is honored to host the meetings and looks forward to contributing to the development of mass media and information in the future. He said the outcomes of SAMRI will be important to the AMRI meeting that is scheduled afterwards. On this occasion, Thailand's delegation is led by the Public Relations Department Deputy Director General, Jarun Chaisorn. Mr. Jarun has said the PRD has an important role in pushing for public relations strategies and will utilize the different forms of media to communicate with the general public. He said the PRD aims to provide beneficial information in line with the ASEAN Master Plan. On this matter, the Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN for ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community, Wongthep Atthakaiwanwathi, said that the common shared information is important to promoting the ASEAN community in its various aspects and not just the heavily emphasized ASEAN Economic Community.
The idea of the information sector, whether we're talking about the television broadcasting, the social media, there was a lot of discussion today about the increasing use of social media and how we interact. What kind of messages that we are going to be projecting. These are some of the things that we have been working on.
Mr. Wongthep has said regional mass media plays an important role in raising awareness about the community, especially among children and youths, who will eventually become the community's major driving force. Moving on to other global news, the United Nations Special Envoy for Syria said he would analyze and compare the demands from the Syrian government and the opposition to shape a common position. UN Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, told reporters that a document the opposition handed over to him during their first meeting is a set of general principles to guide the transition. He added that the opposition wants to see an 8-point proposal from the Syrian government. The previous round of talks had collapsed shortly after it had begun in early February. Since then, a cessation of hostilities has come into force, and on Monday, Russia announced its withdrawal from Syria. The opposition also wants the government to set out how it will begin releasing prisoners. The release of thousands of detainees is part of confidence-building measures stipulated under the truce. The United Nations says it has lost count of how many have been killed in the 5-year-old war and last estimated the total at 250,000. Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu said the aim of a €6 billion agreement with the European Union on refugees was to reduce illegal migration and make passage to Europe safe. Turkish and EU leaders will reconvene at a summit this week to finalize the agreement to reduce migrant flows to Europe after reaching a draft deal this month. They hope to agree on the politically and legally tricky issue at a summit on Thursday and Friday. EU efforts to conclude a deal with Turkey to halt the human tide in return for political and economic rewards hit a setback early on Tuesday. Cyprus, an EU member, vowed to block efforts to speed up Ankara's EU accession talks unless Turkey meets its obligations to recognize its nationhood. European Council President Donald Tusk flew to Ankara to discuss the pact after talks with Cypriot President Nikos Anastasiades. 3 police officers were injured in a Brussels suburb during an anti-terror raid reportedly related to last November's Paris terror attacks. Belgian police said the 3 were slightly wounded in a shootout during a joint Belgian and French raid on a house in southern Brussels. The suspects reportedly escaped and the police operation is ongoing. The area around the shootings has been closed off with a large police presence. Police has advised local residents to remain indoors while a manhunt is underway. The shootout happened as a team of Belgian and French police arrived to search an address as part of the investigation into the November 13 Paris attacks, which killed about 130 people. The Venezuelan government requested an extension to an economic emergency decree in January, which was brought in through executive powers despite parliamentary opposition. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's socialist government requested a 60-day extension of the emergency decree as the recession hit OPEC nation reels from low oil prices and a sputtering state-led economic model. Speaking to the National Assembly, which was led by the opposition for the first time in 17 years, Vice President Aristobulu Isturiz said the slump in oil prices necessitated emergency measures. On top of the plunging oil prices, the government blames its woes on an economic war waged by the opposition, which says policy incompetence is to blame. The opposition argued that it rejected the decree because it was more of the same policies that had brought Venezuela to crisis, referring to Maduro's continuation of his mentor Hugo Chavez's strict currency and price controls. And that brings us to the end of today's edition of Newsline. Thank you very much for joining us. Should you have any suggestions or comments, please feel free to write them to us at newsline.nbt@gmail.com. Today we end the program with some pictures of bald eagles nesting in Washington, D.C.'s National Arboretum. I'm Chalapan San Rula. We'll see you tomorrow. Sawasdee ka.